Representative Sandra Masin will be returning to the Minnesota House for a 7th term to represent Eagan and a portion of Burnsville. She joins us now to talk about what's next. Representative Masin, congratulations on the election.
Thank you very, very much. It's really exciting to be back. Obviously, there is so much going on this year, and that it's really a distinct pleasure to be able to keep working on what we started.
Well, one of the things that we have to keep working on is COVID-19. It's been the topic of a record number of special sessions this year, and I suspect it's going to be the focus of when the regular session begins in January. No one can fix it with a magic wand, but what can the legislature do about the situation we're in?
Well, basically, we're trying to do our best to make sure that everybody is safe and healthy. And to me right now, the bigger problem seems to be making it possible that everybody understands the seriousness of this issue. I mean, I am still getting emails where people are calling the governor a dictator because of what he's doing. And yet, most of the people in our community I know are going out of their ways to be safe. They are staying home. They are wearing masks. They are doing the things that need to be done. But yet there's so many people who are not. And the question is, how do we get to those people? I was talking to a neighbor a couple of weeks ago. Now, she is in healthcare. And she was saying, she talks to people that she knows. And yet when they don't understand the seriousness of COVID or the need to wear masks and to take precautions, she said it's hard not to get angry and to keep on communicating with those people. And she's not the only one. I mean, I think we're all dealing with this when we know how hard it is and what some people are going through. Well, it's the number of people that are dying unnecessarily because we can't get everyone to take the procedures that are necessary. So
one of the things that has made it harder, I think, for people is the financial impact that that goes along with shutting things down. Can the state do much, or do we have to rely on the federal government and the new administration to provide funding so that people can, keep their businesses, can stay home, can do all the things that you need to do to survive in this world?
And that because we are asking people to shut down their businesses, in particular businesses like restaurants, I do believe we have, it is important to us to help those people stay in business and still be able to function. As a state, we can do something. I know that the governor released some more money for grants to small businesses, but by and large, it is the federal government that we have to rely on to make this really productive. And the fact that right now we have somebody in the White House and actually in the U.S. Senate who are ignoring the COVID problem, it makes it so much more difficult. And again, if we have to wait till the end of January, I mean, think of all the people that are going to die in the meantime and all the people that will be hopefully not able to, we're not able to help the people that need to be helped now. And a number of people are going to be going off unemployment as well within the next month.
Now, let's talk about one of the underlying issues here, which is access to health care. When you were with us before the election, you said COVID-19 has made one thing really clear, and that is how important it is for every Minnesotan to have access to quality health care. Can we get closer to that during the session, and how would we do that?
Okay. Virtually, for as long as I've been in the legislature, I have been one of the people that has been signing on to John Marty's Minnesota Health Plan, which is a plan that covers health care for all. And that's, if nothing else, during this time of COVID, we know how important it is for people to have health care. And the fact that you can get testing without being charged now shows how important it is that each and every one of us has the ability to get health care. And we live in virtually the only industrialized country that doesn't provide some form of universal health care. So as I said, that should be number one. I mean, we need to, well, number two. Number one is dealing with the COVID issue, which is, until we deal with that, we're not going to be able to move our economy very much either. So we've got to deal with healthcare. We've got to deal with COVID in order for us to move forward. It's to me, it's that clear.
We were chatting before we started here today, and we were talking about the big issues that influence things and how you can't live without this. You can't live without health. You can't live without health care. And you also can't live with a climate that is not going to allow us to have a planet. What can we do about climate change? Is there anything the legislature can do these days?
Oh, I think in that case, for the number of years, we've got some really strong leaders on the environment. And the point is, yes, we need to do everything we can to make sure that there is clean water. Without water, we're not going to be able to survive. And then the fact about the clean air. And actually, that's one of the issues right now, is where they're proceeding with the pipeline for oil. I mean, we are trying to get rid of the fossil fuels so we can have clean air. So for us to allow a further expansion of the oil industry makes absolutely no sense. It's like we're trying to go in one direction, but we're putting up huge barriers. So it's things like that where we need to really think about how we're regulating and how we're following through, and also when we are changing something, I do believe it is important for us to be able to help support financially the policies as we're going forward.
Now, government investment in infrastructure helps during an economic downturn right now, and that's kind of where we are these days. And during one of the many special sessions, the legislature did pass a bonding bill. Was it enough, and does something else need to be done?
Well, one of the problems was the bill should have been passed during our regular session in April or May. It didn't get passed till October, which means now in Minnesota, most of the building session or time frame is gone till next spring. So it's really important for us to look at what we've got going. But again, I mean, we didn't pass the bill as large as we would have liked. So yes, there's still more to be done next year. I mean, we have put off projects after projects, and everyone is aware that most of the infrastructure, roads, bridges, water facilities, these are all going on 50-year terms. I mean, they are wearing out. So again, if we want clean water, we're going to have the appropriate facilities, and we need to be able to pay to get those facilities up to code.
And that's our aging infrastructure. And there's new infrastructure that you need, and you've talked about, and that's broadband. What needs to be done there, and how will that help the economy?
Okay, this is something, I mean, in my first term, I had a bill that had the broadband task force. And that goes back a number of years. And we do have a broadband task force now and a program. And are we living up to that? Probably not. But during this time of COVID, when people have had to stay home and been able to communicate from wherever they lived in the state, we now know how incredibly difficult that is for some portions of the state. So it is incumbent upon us to make sure that no matter where people live in the state, they have some form of communication, and broadband seems to be the best way to do that.
Yeah, because our conversation that we're having today obviously wouldn't happen without broadband, and people have just come to assume that something like that is going to work. So having it available everywhere just seems to make sense. To make progress on a lot of the stuff that we've talked about here, you are in the majority in the House. The DFL is in the minority in the Senate. this is the only legislature in the entire nation that has a split like this. How do you get things done when you have that kind of split going on?
Well, item one, yeah, we did pass a number of bills. Even during the special session, we were able to get together and pass some bills. But it's extraordinarily difficult. And given the fact that people have seen us struggle, the fact that we still have a split legislature makes absolutely no sense to me. Either you want to get something done or you don't. And I do remember at the state fair once I was talking to a gentleman, and he deliberately votes a split ticket. So that way there's a balance. And I want to remind everybody, the constitutions were not developed with the political parties in mind. That came afterward. The main balance is supposed to be between the legislature, the governor, president, whichever level of government you're talking about, and the judicial. It's not Republicans and Democrats. So it really is important for you to look at the people that are how they're voting. I mean, that should be the critical thing. And for the fact that we have, both at the federal level and also in our state Senate, where we have people that have been ignoring the problem of COVID virtually this whole year. I mean, to me, I just don't understand how you can want people or hold those people to be responsible at all when they're ignoring a major problem, both on a personal level and for our economy. Does that answer your question?
Oh, it does and it doesn't. It sounds like we don't understand, or we don't understand why you end up with a split, but the question is, how, since that's where we are, how do we get past that?
I mean, the best we can do is just talk with one another. And actually, in Minnesota, in our legislature, we do have basically it's called the Civic Caucus, where we haven't been doing it during COVID. It started maybe about a year or two ago, and it was based out of a program coming out of the University of Arizona, where they have the Civic Caucus that they instituted after Gabby Giffords shooting. And it's to encourage people to talk to one another. So we were doing that like on a monthly basis prior to COVID. And I'm thinking we probably need to figure out how to reinstitute it if we're going back next year and still are not able to get into regular meetings. It's something we probably could do via Zoom as well. But I think that's incredibly important because, as I said, it's really difficult to understand how people are voting in some cases if they're paying it, if they want us to solve COVID. I mean, to me, it's really apparent who you need to be voting for and supporting.
All right. Well, Sandra Masin will be headed back for her 7th term, as we said, to represent Eagan here as the new year begins. Sandy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this.